Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Aisha Fatima, Client Service Director at TGM Research. It's wonderful to have you join us today for this session, conducting impactful online surveys in the MENA region with cultural nuance. Now, why are we here? In research, especially online surveys, one size does not fit all. This is particularly true in the Middle East and North Africa, or you call it as MENA as well, which is both one of the most digitally connected regions in the world and one of the most culturally diverse. Today, I'll share with you how to design surveys that not only collect data, but collect the right kind of data by respecting cultural nuances and leveraging local realities. And I'll also, show you this with real life examples in the case study. The session is meant to be practical. My purpose is twofold: to show you why now is the right time to invest in better survey practices in MENA, to equip you with specific tools and approaches, things you can apply tomorrow when designing your own surveys. We will look at cultural, linguistic, and behavioral factors and end with a case study that illustrates how a localized survey design gave one of our FMCG clients a competitive edge. Let's dive into digital growth in the MENA region. Makes this such an important and timely conversation. The Middle East and North Africa is undergoing a massive digital transformation. This is being fueled by a very young, tech-savvy population, government-led strategies, and major investments in digital infrastructure. What this really means is that the way people in this region shop, bank, or learn and engaged has changed completely and continues to evolve rapidly. For us in research, this creates a prime environment to conduct online surveys and digital first studies. Now, let's look at two key indicators of this growth. First, rising internet penetration. As of 2024, internet penetration across many MENA countries exceeds 90%. For example, the UAE is at 99%, Saudi Arabia at 98%. Qatar has reached a nearly full penetration of 100%, and Egypt is already at 89% and still growing. This tells us that digital access is no longer limited to a select few. It's mainstream. Even urban areas in countries like Morocco, Jordan, and Tunisia are experiencing rapid adoption. The implication for us is clear. With more people online, we have easier access to larger, more diverse target audiences for digital surveys, e-commerce studies, and product testing. Second, high smartphone usage. Mobile first behavior dominates, particularly among Gen Z and millennials. Mobile is not just a device, it's the main gateway to the internet in this region. For instance, mobile internet usage is at 95% in Saudi Arabia, 96% in UAE, and 90% in Egypt. Platforms like TikTok, Instagram, WhatsApp, YouTube, and Snapchat are at the center of people's daily interactions. For researchers, this means we need to design mobile first surveys, short, bite sized, and engaging, so that respondents stay involved and complete the survey without fatigue. So, the big takeaway here is this: MENA's digital growth is not just about the number of people online, it's about the quality of access. People are connected through mobile devices, active on social platforms, and open to participating digitally, which makes the region a fertile ground for impactful online research. Now, let's move into the three more drivers of digital growth in MENA. First, becoming e-commerce and digital payment ecosystem. Digital retail in this region is expected to hit $57 billion by 2026. That growth is being powered by fintech innovations like STC Pay, Fori, and Tabby, alongside the rise of online groceries, quick commerce, and new payment models like e-Valley and BNPL. For research, this means a rising need to study online shopping behaviors, digital payment preferences, and trust in fintech, all of which are best captured through online surveys. Second, government-led digital agendas. Governments are not only supportive but also actively driving this transformation. The UAE's Vision to 2031 prioritizes AI smart services and a digital economy. Saudi's Vision 2030 is investing heavily in e-government, e-learning, smart cities like Neom, and digital health. Egypt's Digital Egypt program is expanding fiber optic networks, e-payments, and remote education. These government endorsements make the digital ecosystem more sustainable, while also creating new sectors and new opportunities for policy and consumer research. And the last but not the least, a youth-dominated digitally native population. Over 60% of the MENA's population is under 30. This generation is highly active online, quick to adopt trends, and very responsive in digital media. The implication for us as a researcher is clear. If surveys are fast, relevant, mobile first, and incentivized, we can reach the most influential consumer segments in this region. Now, let's connect these digital growth drivers back to research directly. Traditionally, conducting research in MENA had its challenges. Respondents were hard to reach. There was low trust in phone or paper surveys. Language and access barriers were significant. And in rural areas, logistics made data collection slow and costly, and much biased data. But today, digital solutions are changing the landscape. Multilingual mobile optimized designs reduce language and cultural barriers. And with stronger mobile coverage, even rural areas are now accessible via app-based distribution. The final takeaway is this. MENA's digital economy is not just emerging, it's accelerating. For researchers, marketers, and brands, this creates a massive data-rich, digitally accessible opportunity. The key is to localize our approach, embrace mobile-first designs, and respect cultural norms. Why MENA is different. MENA is often seen as one block, but in reality, it's made up of distinct subregions. The Gulf, North Africa, and the Levant, each with unique cultural, economic, and digital behaviors. The GCC markets are wealthy, high digital, but conservative. North Africa blends Arab and French cultures with lower incomes but high mobile usage. The Levant is politically sensitive but more open to Western culture with diverse religious backgrounds. The key message here is that what works in Saudi Arabia may fail in Egypt. Survey design, language, incentives, and even tone need to adapt to these local differences if you want a reliable data. One of the biggest misconceptions about MENA is that is the idea that Arabic is a single uniform language. While Arabic is spoken across the region, in practice, dialects and even script usage vary widely. And this has huge implications for survey designs. Let's look at a few examples. Egyptian Arabic is probably the most widely understood thanks to Egyptian TV and film. But while others may understand it, it's not native to Gulf residents. Gulf Arabic, also known as Khaliji, is used in KSA and UAE and neighboring countries. It has its own vocabulary and expressions that don't always carry over to other regions. Levantine Arabic, spoken in Jordan, Lebanon, and Palestine, it has a completely different tone and slang. It's more informal and conversational. And in Francophone North Africa, like Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia, Arabic is often mixed with French in daily communication. So, what's the best practice? First, avoid relying only on modern standard Arabic. It may work for a pan-Arabic audience, but in most cases, it feels too formal and disconnected from how people actually speak. Here is a simple example of why localization matters in Arabic. In Egypt, you might say Fahmat, which literally means, did you understand? And it feels natural in everyday Egyptian conversation. Now, if you use the same phrase, Fahamat, in Saudi Arabia, people will understand it, but it feels a bit generic or formal. Instead, the more natural local way to say the same thing would be Fahimale, which translates roughly to, are you following me? Both means the same thing, but the local version makes the survey feel more authentic and relatable. And when surveys feel local, respondents are more engaged and give better quality answers. And finally, always test translations with native speakers from each region. Don't just rely on a single Arabic translator. Otherwise, you risk missing local nuances that affect how respondents interpret your survey. A big takeaway here is Arabic is not one size fits all. To get authentic responses, survey must sound local and relatable to the people answering them. The next key difference is religion. It plays a central role in daily life across the MENA region, and it directly impacts how and when we should deploy surveys. There are three key areas to keep in mind. First, Ramadan. During this month, time is everything. Surveys must avoid iftar, the time when people break their fast, as well as prayer times. Questions around food or personal behavior during fasting also needs to be handled with sensitivity. Second, Hajj and Eid periods. These are major religious occasions that affect respondents' availability. Travel and religious obligations during these times usually mean lower response rates, so timeline should always be adjusted accordingly. Third, religious framing. Even when we are conducting product or brand evaluations, we must avoid anything that contradicts Islamic values. That includes questions about alcohol, gambling, or clothing that might be seen as inappropriate. So, what's the best practice? It's all about framing. For example, instead of asking, how often do you drink wine with dinner? Reframe the question to, which beverages do you typically enjoy with evening meals? This way, you avoid alienating respondents while still collecting the data you need. The big lesson here is that surveys in MENA must respect religious norms in both timings and language. If done thoughtfully, respondents feel comfortable and engaged, which leads to more reliable insights. One of the most considerations, One of the most important considerations in MENA research is the role of gender norms and privacy. Many countries in the region have conservative gender roles. And third, and directly affects both how we recruit respondents and how we phrase survey questions. For example, in Saudi Arabia, men and women often have very different daily routines and access levels. In some cases, permissions also differ, which can also influence availability to participate in research. And when it comes to asking women about spending habits, lifestyle, or health choices, the questions must be framed with discretion to avoid discomfort and dropouts. Privacy is non negotiable. Asking for personal details such as WhatsApp numbers, unless it's crystal clear why and with consent, should be avoided. In certain B2C product studies, it may even be necessary to segment targeting by gender to stay culturally appropriate. So, what are the best practices? Use neutral and passive phrasing for sensitive topics. Avoid asking direct questions about sexual, marital, or family status unless they are necessary for the study. And in mobile surveys, always place gender specific content after screening the section. So that's only the relevant group sees it. The key takeaway is this: Respecting gender norms and protecting privacy is not just ethical, it's also practical. It builds trust and ensures that respondents engage openly with the survey. Next up, mobile first mindset. One of the defining features of MENA's digital reality is that it's mobile first. Smartphone penetration is exceptionally high, especially in the Gulf region. This means most survey takers in MENA are not sitting at a desktop or laptop. They are completing surveys through social media links, Instagram, WhatsApp, Snapchat, and mobile web browsers rather than traditional desktop browsers. So, what does this mean for survey design? It means that a survey must be built for mobile first, no horizontal scrolling, clear call to action buttons, touch friendly inputs, and progress bars. We also need to avoid heavy grid questions or ranking matrices because they simply don't work well on a small screen. At TGM, for example, our survey platform is optimized for low bandwidth, Arabic script, and a smooth mobile user experience because that's the reality of how people engage in MENA. The bottom line here is simple. Understanding MENA's mobile first nature is not just a nice to have, it's a research necessity. If you want high quality data, you must adapt your surveys to the region. Don't expect respondents to your survey design. When it comes to survey research in MENA, one of the most critical decision is choosing the right sample source. It's not enough to have a great questionnaire. Certainly, it's very important. The quality of your panel determines whether the data you get is reliable. That's why we always emphasize the use of local verified panels at TGM Research. This has been a cornerstone of how we ensure both data quality and cultural fit in a region as diverse and nuanced as MENA. So, why do local panels matter so much? First, cultural and linguistic familiarity. Local panelists know the regional brands, dialects, and social norms. That means they interpret questions more accurately, which reduces misinterpretation and increases the reliability of responses. Second, trust and engagement. In markets like Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and the UAE, people are often cautious about unknown survey sources. Verified panels where participants have opted in and build trust through consistent communication deliver higher engagement rates and significantly lower fraud risk. And third, targeting accuracy. Local panels let us be precise in targeting by city, by region, by language preferences. For example, Arabic versus English, by religion, or even by shopping habits. This level of granularity is especially important when brand needs insights that are representative of real local consumers. The takeaway here is that local verified panels don't just give us data, they give us the right data aligned with the cultural and social context of the region. One of the biggest questions client usually ask us is how do you make sure your panels deliver quality data? And in MENA, this becomes even more critical because of the region's unique challenges. At TGM, we take a very rigorous approach to panel health through multiple layers of quality control. We use double opt-in registration to ensure respondents truly wants to participate. We run regular profiling updates so that the data we collect reflects people's current demographic and behaviors. We have also built fraud detection systems into our research shield, including device fingerprinting and IP tracking to block duplicates or fraudulent entries. We include attention checks during surveys to identify disengaged respondents. And we maintain blacklist systems to filter out low quality or overused participants. For example, at TGM, we revalidate panel profiles every 3 to 6 months and apply AI-based fraud detection, fraud prevention even before the survey starts. Why does this matter, especially in MENA? First, because most responses come from mobile first users, around 90% in KSA and UAE, as discussed before. Second, because multilingual dialects can increase the risk of misinterpretation. Third, because social desirability bias is very common due to cultural sensitivities. And finally, because sensitive topics like finance, religion, or gender can lead to higher dropout rates if not handled carefully. All of this means that data validation is not optional, it's essential. That's why TGM's research shield combines technology, human logic, and behavioral analytics to safeguard outcomes against fraud, disengaged respondents, and bias. It's what allows us to deliver not just data, but trusted insight. One of the most important indicators to monitor in MENA survey project is the incidence rate, or we call it as IR as a standard. IR refers to the proportion of people who actually qualify for a study after going through initial screening. And as you can see here, incidence rates vary dramatically across both markets and categories. For example, in FMCG research, IR is relatively high, about 25 to 35% in Egypt, around 20% in Saudi Arabia, and up to 30% in the UAE. In banking and finance, IR dropped significantly, 10 to 15% in Egypt, only about 8% in Saudi Arabia, and 12 to 18% in the UAE market. For luxury goods, IR is even lower and more selective, 5 to 8% in Egypt, 10 to 12% in Saudi, and 15 to 18% in the UAE. So why does this matter? Because accurately estimating IR before you launch saves time, reduces cost, and avoids misfielding delays. If you underestimate IR, you risk overspending and extending timelines. If you overestimate, you might struggle to achieve your target sample. The key takeaway here is that knowing your IR upfront is essential for realistic planning in MENA projects. It directly impacts feasibility, budgeting, and timelines. Now, let's talk about dropout and termination rates. Respondents may quit mid survey, fail quality checks, or abandon surveys altogether because of delays. The top reason for dropping out includes surveys that are too long or repetitive, poor mobile design, questions that are too personal or not culturally appropriate, or even poor translations, especially when formal Arabic is used instead of local dialects. So here is a key insight. In Saudi Arabia, surveys longer than 15 minutes have a 28% higher dropout rate compared to surveys under 10 minutes. This shows just how critical survey length and design are in keeping respondents engaged. Second, mobile compatibility. Across the region, mobile is the dominant survey taking device. Because of its higher internet and mobile usage penetration rates, this means survey must be touch friendly, lightweight, and scroll optimized. We must avoid long grids, complex matrices, or heavy visuals like flash or uncompressed video. So at TGM Research, all of our surveys in MENA are designed mobile first, tested across multiple devices, and translated with dialect specific language to make sure participants feel comfortable and engaged. The key takeaway here is if we want better completion rates and cleaner data in MENA, we need to design surveys that respect both time and technology. Here comes the important criteria. One of the most important aspects of survey design in MENA is cultural sensitivity. This is not just a best practice, it's a critical success factor. To collect meaningful insights, we always need to embed local awareness, respect, and relevance into every question. Now, what does that mean in practice? There are several taboo or sensitive topics that should be avoided, or at the very least, handled with extreme caution. These include alcohol consumption, sexual orientation or behavior, criticism of religion or political institutions, gambling and nightlife, personal wealth or family planning, depending on context. Why does this matter? Because these topics can offend or alienate conservative respondents. It might also, trigger survey terminations or refusals, or lead to even social desirability bias, where people just provide the falsified or socially acceptable answers rather than the truth. So now, if such questions are absolutely essential, say in health research or even when targeting expatriates, then they need to be handled very carefully. That means using soft language, proper screening, and ensuring complete anonymity. The takeaway here is very clear. In MENA, cultural sensitivity is not optional. It's what keeps survey respectful, engaging, and ultimately credible. Now let's talk about cultural sensitivity through localized example. In the MENA region, people connect best with what feels familiar. I mean, what they eat, how they bank, and the media they consume. Using global generic preferences often misses the mark. So the key is to ground our surveys in local realities. Let's start with food and beverage. If you are testing products or preferences, it's important to frame questions around halal options or meal timings during Ramadan. For instance, instead of asking which wine brand do you prefer, a better approach is which beverage do you prefer to serve guests during special occasions. The second feels natural, respectful, and yields better quality answers. Next, banking and finance. A large share of consumers use Sharia compliant finance. This includes Islamic saving accounts, takaful, which is Islamic insurance, or no interest credit alternatives. Instead of asking, do you prefer interest bearing accounts, which many would find irrelevant, ask which types of savings are most familiar to you, while including both conventional and Islamic choices. Finally, the media and influencers. Global platform like Netflix or Hulu might not resonate as strongly here. Instead, referencing Shahid, MBC, or OSN Plus feels more relevant. And when talking about social platforms, TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchats are widely used, but usage pattern differ by age group and country. So context really matters. The key takeaway here is very simple. When surveys reflect the everyday life of respondents, whether that's food, finance, or media, you not only build trust, but you also gather more authentic, reliable insights. One of the biggest pitfall in survey design across MENA is translation quality. Arabic is a rich, nuanced language, but misusing dialects, being overly formal, or relying on machine translation can cause major misinterpretations. So, what's the best practice? First, use local dialects. For example, Gulf Arabic works best in Saudi Arabia and UAE. Egyptian Arabic is for Egypt, and Levant Arabic for Jordan and Lebanon. So using a generic version of technically be understood, but it often feels robotic as well, or maybe disconnected. Secondly, apply double translations. Translate from English to Arabic, then back into English. This helps catch any loss of meaning, changes in tone, or unintentional offense. Several examples have been shared on the screen. The tip here is very simple. Use professional translators who understand survey research. It's not just general translators, because in survey design, tone and nuance are everything. Let's look at some practical examples of how reframing can make or break a survey in the MENA region. The first example, do you go clubbing or drinking every weekend? This type of question refers directly to taboo topics, alcohol and nightlife. Not only does it risk offending respondents, it can also trigger dropouts. So, a better alternative is to ask more neutrally, how often do you go out to socialize with friends or family on weekends? It captures the same social behavior insight, but in the way that's culturally safe. Second, do you live with your partner? In many parts of MENA, this assumes cohabitation outside of marriage, which is culturally inappropriate. Instead, you can ask more inclusively, who do you currently live with? Select all that apply. This way, you get the information you need, whether it is spouse or family or roommates, without implying anything that may cause discomfort. And third, what is your opinion of religious leaders in your country? This is both politically and religiously sensitive. Such questions can create distrust, biased responses, or even result in survey termination. So, the best practice here is either to remove this type of question unless it is absolutely necessary, or reframe it with indirect statements that scales that are less confrontational. The key message here is by carefully reframing sensitive questions, we don't lose the data, we gain better quality responses while protecting trust and engagement. Now that we have understood examples, we have gone over examples and we have understood the cultural nuances. Now let's wrap up this section with some very practical guidelines on cultural sensitivity in MENAR surveys. While designing questionnaires, we should always think in terms of do's and don'ts. On the do side, use inclusive and neutral phrasing. Always validate translations with native speakers in each market, not just a one size fit all version. Respect local holidays, prayer times, and gender norms when planning survey launches. Use examples that are regionally relevant so respondents can relate to them. And importantly, keep data collection anonymous and opt in to build trust. On the other hand, on the don'ts side, avoid Western centric expressions or references that don't resonate in the region. Don't rely on one size Arabic translations or Google Translate. They often miss nuance. Avoid launching studies during Ramadan unless you have adjusted for timings and sensitivities. Don't use irrelevant foreign examples like Starbucks pumpkin latte, which may confuse respondents, and never ask intrusive or personally identifying questions unless absolutely necessary. So the takeaway is very simple. Here, culturally adopted surveys are not just polite, they are more effective. They lead to higher engagement, richer insights, in fact, and much lower dropout rates. So if you want your surveys to succeed in MENA, the key is to reflect local realities every step of the way. Now, let me share a quick case study that really brings all of this to life. We worked with a global FMCG food brand to test localized food preferences and consumption behavior during Ramadan in KSA, UAE, and Egypt. The study included 600 respondents split across the three markets with a very strong focus on Ramadan cooking behavior and halal consumption patterns. Our survey design was mobile first, fully translated into local Arabic dialects, Gulf Arabic in KSA and UAE, and Egyptian Arabic in Egypt. And we also did soft testing in all three markets to catch translation and device issues early. So the results were very encouraging. While we achieved a 90% completion rate, which is significantly higher than any FMCG benchmarks in this region, the fieldwork was completed 25% faster than usual. Importantly, we also saw a lower dropout rate because The survey was culturally aligned, respecting dietary sensitivities and local routines. So the client found the data so valuable that they used it as a template for wider MENA rollout. The outcome also helped refine their messaging strategy for both Ramadan and post Ramadan periods, making it more locally relevant and effective. So the conclusion here is when we combine cultural intelligence, mobile first design, and verified panel access, we don't just collect data, we unlock insights that are scalable across the regions. So we are almost at the end. As we wrap up, let me leave you with a few key takeaways from today's discussion. First, MENA is not one single market. There are cultural, linguistic, and behavioral differences across the Gulf, Levant, and North Africa. So, research must always be localized. Second, digital first is essential, certainly, with high mobile penetration and youth driven online behavior. Service must be mobile optimized, short, and easy to complete. Third, cultural sensitivity is critical. The way we phrase questions, the timing of surveys, and even the topic themselves must respect local norms such as halal preferences, religious practices, and gender roles. Fourth, local panels ensure data quality. Trusted verified respondent sources like TGM's panel reduce dropouts, ensure cultural alignment, and deliver more accurate data. And finally, TGM's approach delivers results, whether in FMCG, finance, or media. Our localized development deployment consistently leads to better response rates, faster fieldwork, and richer insights. So, conducting surveys in MENA is not just about translation, it's about cultural integration, respect for the audience, and smart execution. And to truly understand this evolving consumer landscape, you need a partner who's both digitally equipped and culturally fluent. Exactly what TGM brings to the table. So at TGM Research, our focus has always been on combining global reach with deep local practice. And this is especially true across the MENA region. We offer access to one of the most comprehensive and deeply profiled panels across 70 plus MENA countries, giving you the reliability to reach even niche audiences with confidence and cultural precision. All our surveys are powered by mobile first technology, ensuring that we reach respondents where they are on their phone, which is critical in MENA markets where mobile penetration is among the highest in the world. We also have an in-house localization experts who not only handle translations across different Arabic dialects, but also perform cultural quality assurance. This helps us make sure every question is contextually relevant, culturally accurate, and resonates with the respondents. Another strength we are very proud of is our real-time field monitoring system. This allows us to track field progress and data quality live, ensuring greater efficiency, faster turnarounds, and cleaner data sets. Lastly, we bring hands-on experience working across FMCG, finance, tourism, and government sectors, which gives us a solid understanding of both consumer and institutional audiences in this region. In short, when you work with TGM, you are partnering with a team that blends local knowledge, smart technology, and sector expertise, helping you gather insights that are not just data points, but truly represent your audience. Thank you so much for joining with me. Take care. Bye.